Joined once again by the head coach of the men's national team, Jesse Marsch. I think the first question everyone wants to know is, do you have any indication from CONCACAF whether or not you'll be on the sidelines yet on Tuesday?
No, we don't yet, but I think there's been positive developments that are going to make it easier for them to release me from this whole situation. So let's see what happens. But I think people realize that there was nothing egregious that happened. So,
and just a follow-up on that. How have you taken to this whole situation over the last? I mean, you were up on the podium and said, "Listen, it's got to be about the players," but I know you're balancing that between the fact that you have wanted to stand up for the players and speak up for them and speak up for Canadian soccer.
I also said I don't think it should have been a second game, and I wish I could have been on the bench for the game yesterday because I think I could have helped the team through the situation. It was difficult, right? The heat, I think that I was worried about us underestimating the opponent and overestimating our performance against Honduras. And I think a lot of those elements led to the performance specifically in the second half and the later stages of the game and us not being ready for what we needed. So, it's my job to be there for the team, and I wasn't, but now I will be, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, and to that point, because a couple of days ago you also said that being up high does allow you to kind of observe things that you necessarily can't see on ground level. So then what did you see between the difference in that 6-0 win against Honduras and then certainly the countless get-out-of-jail-free cards your team was using against Curacao?
Well, look, I said to them, first of all, we knew that when you play against a man-marking team, the challenges of what you can do with the ball and the things that you can achieve and the advantages that you can find are different. And so, we put a different group on the pitch and we asked them to see if they could understand how to handle the game. I thought the start to the game was really good. And not just because we got the lead, but we were really in control of things. And then slowly over time, Curacao pushed themselves more into the game. And specifically in the second half, we got a little bit more undisciplined. And as we got more tired, then the game got open a little bit more. And it allowed them to be in more 1v1 situations with our back line, and eventually it caught up with us. We were lucky, as you said, in the two previous actions that led to goals, not to be punished on those. One was clearly offside. The other one was a matter of millimeters. How we made subs, when we made subs, were the subs ready? Because I was really hard. A lot of established guys came on the pitch and weren't ready, right? So we've got to use it to understand that in the heat against these kinds of opponents, not to underestimate them and to make sure that we're ready for the challenge and to use that in the rest of this run in the tournament.
I want to just look ahead very quickly because when we watch the Club World Cup, we see the effect that the heat is having on a lot of teams. Are you noting that? I mean, after the final group stage game, you will be inside. But looking ahead to next summer's World Cup, are there training things that you're going to have to note down to prepare
we knew this in Copa, right? So we trained in Atlanta, and we trained hard in Atlanta to prepare ourselves. But even so, when we played Peru and Kansas City, it was hard for us to acclimate, and we had to make 3 changes at half. So we've been through this. But next summer, we will go down to North Carolina. We will have our pre-camp down there. We will push the fitness. We will train down there so that our players, I think, are at the highest fitness level that they can possibly be. And then typically when you go back up to Canada, it won't be as hot. But we know that training and conditioning in the heat is a factor, specifically for playing in these heat games. A lot of our players come from backgrounds where their families come from these kind of climates and things like this, Jamaica, Africa, Southern Europe. But a lot of them grew up in Canada and didn't experience the heat the same way that you have down here in Texas. So we have inherent challenges to that, specifically against some of these Caribbean and Central American countries. But we've got to find ways to acclimate and then to be ready for what that challenge is.
You're no stranger to going through an injury list. Jonathan Osorio now is going back to Toronto after getting a lower body injury just the day before the game against Curacao. Will Derek Cornelius be ready? How is Ali Ahmed? And Jonathan Davis played a lot of minutes, so is he going to feature at all against El Salvador?
Jonathan David will feature against El Salvador. He still feels good, and he's a really fit guy. So he's played a lot of matches, but he's still ready to go. Derek trained and trained well today, so we're hopeful that he can be available. Ali Ahmed is getting an MRI right now, and we're hopeful. We're keeping our fingers crossed that it's not too bad. And, we're really bummed for Oso. It happened as the last kind of action in training the day before the match against Curacao. And, we knew it was his 7th Gold Cup. What an historic statistic that is, and then the fact that he doesn't get to play, and still he's an important guy in the team, and even though he hadn't played yet, like, you know, we wanted to be able to use him because even when you look at last year when he was supplemented into the lineup, or when we put him at halftime against Peru, his experience and his understanding of how to handle those matches is really good. So it's a big loss for us.
You know, I was talking to Tani Oluwaseyi about this. Is there a benefit when you look at that game against El Salvador? Yes, it'll be at night, so maybe the heat won't be as much of a factor, but there will be a crowd. Mm-hmm. And even though you look at the rankings right now, I mean, it would take a catastrophic situation for you not to advance.
Yeah.
But just that atmosphere, is it going to, as Tani was saying, maybe bring out something in the guys to kind of reinvigorate them a little bit?
No, look, we're obviously disappointed that we didn't handle the last match the way we wanted to.
And the metrics changes. Like a 1-1 draw, it's not the end of the tournament.
No, that's why like this morning I was made sure that our energy was clear, that our energy was strong, that we were positive, that it's tournament phase. We didn't lose, right? It felt like a loss because we gave up a late goal, but we have to stay charged, right, and ready for the next challenge. And often in tournament play, your ability to handle adversity and learn from situations will often dictate how successful you can be. I didn't expect us to win 6-0 again. I told the team that I could see that maybe we weren't really anticipating exactly what the challenge was going to be. We did great when I wasn't there on the bench in the first match. Not as good the second match. We'll learn from it. This third match, we need to put a really good team on the pitch. We need to go out and win it, and then prepare ourselves now to go into the knockout stages and be ready to perform at our best.
You talk about the depth and the way that you've changed the lineup over the last 3-4 games, but the consequence of that, though, kind of is apparent too in some of the performances. If guys aren't measuring up to your standard, are you starting to go ahead and evaluate guys and saying, hey, in the pairings that they have, in situations that they have, if they're not performing, I mean, we've talked constantly about this race for the roster, but in your own mind, are you even starting now and looking at guys and evaluating how they deal with this situation?
They know that, right? Mm-hmm. This is part of professional sports. This is part of what the national team is. And I think through the process of us giving opportunities to everyone, then we're able to see, like, not just from a naked eye, is it good or a bad day, but like, how do they fit into the ideas and tactics of what we're trying to establish, and how do they handle the difficulties of the moments, right? And in the end, it's about the collective and the understanding of the roles, but then obviously there's individual performances in there. And so guys are trying everything they can to understand what their roles are on the day, how to commit to it, what the opponent is presenting, and then how to execute the plan and within their own abilities perform the best that they possibly can. So the one thing you can say about our group is that every guy is always putting his best foot forward all the time, and then it's just the understanding of levels and how hard they can commit to that.
Final two questions in a big picture perspective. The coaching staff, you have been intentful in bringing in a lot of CPL coaches. Mm-hmm. James Merriman from Pacific, obviously Mauro Stacchio's been here from York United, mm-hmm. David Edgar from Forge. Why has that been important every single camp to bring in Canadian, really since that you've come here?
Yeah, and Mike Vigilano is here today as well. So he'll be with us through the rest of the Gold Cup, and he's the U17s coach. And between the CPL coaches, young developing coaches, coaches that are coaching inside the organization, we want to just continue to incorporate them into what we're doing with our team, with the game, what we think is important for our players, how they see that we deal with successes, adversity, what we try to do in training every day. Like, there's a lot that I think can be shared across all avenues and levels of the game in the country, and the more people that feel attached to what we're doing and supportive and also can take something away and learn from it, I think the more that will influence the entire soccer community in a really positive way and help them understand what the highest levels look like and what we interpret as what's important in the highest levels. So that part's been fun, you know, and I think everybody that's come has brought something different, but certainly learned a lot. And you know, our group is also, our players and our team, they're really understanding of the fact that this is not just about how good we can be in 2026, although it is, but it's also about the movement that's being created inside the country, inside the organization, and they get it.
Part of the movement inside the country, too, is also reinforcing the identity of this team and how it connects to the identity of the nation. A few weeks ago, you had Indigenous leaders come speak to the team during what has been a significant Indigenous Day just a couple of days ago. Why is that element important, too, knowing that this team is going to represent the whole country in just under a year?
Yeah, well, look, Brad Baker, who's on our board, who lives in Squamish and part of that community, I met him maybe 8-9 months ago, and I need to be educated on all these things too, and so I started asking him questions about when he grew up and where he's from, and then he said, "What do you think if I come speak to the team?" And I was like, "That would be incredible, right?" And so it comes out that Kyle Laren's wife is also her family's from an Indigenous community. So there's ties, all these Canadian ties. It's like a woven blanket of heritage and ethnicity, and I think the more that everybody can really understand the connection that we have to the communities in Canada, the better we can represent the national team. And certainly for me, they did a really wonderful little ceremony of putting a headband on me, and quite honestly, I would rather have them be on. I was honored. But I really want our players to be able to feel that, right? And they're Canadian. I really want them to be connected, and they are, and they feel it too. I'm really appreciative that people are appreciative of how accepting I am of all these different communities and experiences, and it's really important that our players also feel that. So I've said this in so many different ways, but my appreciation and understanding of how important the role of the national team coach for Canada, I understand it, and I feel it, and I just want to honor it in the best way possible.
Is that another element to this, off the field, that is also bringing this closer together too?
Yeah, look, I mean, whether it's been with you or people in the media, or whether it's been with the youth game, or whether it's been with different communities, different cities, provinces, the women's game, the men's game, the different levels of the game. We had youth coaches in Vancouver coming to training. We had all kinds of different experiences. So I'm always wishful that we can have more games in Canada, because it always feels like we're down here in the States. But I think we do maximize the experience that we have every time we're up there.
Appreciate this, Jesse.
All right.